But right now, Ken Blackwell, member of the NRA's board of directors, senior fellow at the Family Research Council, and co-author of the book The Blueprint, is with us. And Ken, thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Cam, it's always good to be with you.
You are one of the first people I ever interviewed here on NRAnews.com in 2004 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the annual meeting. And ever since then, you have been a friend of the program, so it's always good catching up with you. And you know what? I mean, you've exploded in the conservative pundit sphere since 2004.
Well, it's been a good ride, but the threat to our exceptionalism as a nation, the threat to our individual freedom is real. It's a clear and present danger. And so what we're seeing now is an explosion of grassroots activity to make sure that we return to a constitutional republic that limits the reach of government, optimizes individual freedom, that keeps, God as a central part of our nation's prosperity and forward movement, and realizes that at the end of the day, it is the free market economy, not the government-controlled status economy, that gives us prosperity and good lives.
Absolutely. And, we were talking with David Keene a few minutes ago about the first CPAC back in the early 70s when I think he said 125 people showed up, and that was including the speakers. and now, you're looking at more than 11,000 expected to attend this year's event. And yet the issues, Ken, we're still talking about the free market being better than a centrally planned or centrally run economy and, the rise of the bureaucracy. The issues that we are fighting today are really the same issues that we were fighting in many cases back in the early 70s.
Oh, well, absolutely. But just think about it, Cam. Since Aristotle, we have been debating the relationship between the organized state and individual liberty. It is an ongoing debate. It is only when we go to sleep as a people, asleep at the switch, that we see the long arm and the reach of government crowd our individual liberty out of the public square. So that's why this continues to be an important debate for us to have as a nation, the relationship between individual liberty and the organized power of the state. And we can see with our own eyes that whether it's Greece or some other country, we see the downfall of a government-controlled economy where there's a disrespect for individual liberty and the magic of markets.
Absolutely. And you use the phrase asleep at the switch. When you go back to the election of 1980, when Ronald Reagan ultimately swept in, despite a lot of the polls, even a week out, saying that this was going to be a neck-and-neck race between he and Carter, the American people had lived through a decade where they saw a Republican institute price controls and wage controls, and this idea that the government can tweak and plan and manage and massage the economy to avoid recessions and avoid anything bad ever happening to us.
Yep.
I think the American people kind of woke up in the 1980s, but then after the fall of communism, I wonder if we didn't fall asleep again, thinking, well, the threat's over. The Soviet Union, the evil empire is done. It's only a matter of time before perhaps, China becomes a free market society. And we saw after the uprisings in 1989, the Chinese decide, all right, well, maybe we can open up the economy while we still can gain control over people's personal lives. Do you think that maybe going into the 90s and even after September 11th to a certain extent, the American people were asleep at the switch?
Well, it's fascinating line of development. You're absolutely right. Ronald Reagan put us on the right path. He gave us the sort of optimism that we needed to put our faith back in to free markets. But the reality was that conservatives didn't control the Congress, and Tip O'Neill and those guys still kept us on the path of a welfare state. It wasn't until the mid-90s when we began to chip away at the welfare state, and then the politicians reverted back to past behaviors. and we started to grow the state again, and the long reach of government until, in April or February of 2009, Newsweek magazine's cover story was the return of the welfare state, and the big no. As a matter of fact, the headline was "We're all socialists now."
That's right. I remember that.
Right, and so the welfare state was back on the march, and I think that what has happened is that it has taken us so down the drain economically that we're starting to get this pushback from the people. That's why the Tea Party movement is so vibrant, and so politicians once again are starting to listen to the cries of the people, for limited government and free markets, and a return to a fundamental understanding that what has made us exceptional is actually found in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. My dad used to say, Cam, that means in plain speak, any idiot should be able to get this. And then what goes on to talk about we're endowed by our Creator with certain, unalienable rights, which means that our basic freedoms are not grants from any government, but they're gifts from God, our Creator. And so among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and which means that, it's an order. You can't have liberty if you're dead.
Yeah.
So, we have to have a strong defense. We have to protect our borders. We have to respect have a reverence for life. And then we have to understand that God fashioned us in His image, and so we have a longing to be free. That's why the NRA is so important, because they understand that this isn't just about guns, it's about freedom. And it's about something that's part of our, not only our instinct, but our personal constitution. Mm-hmm. We are fashioned to earn freedom.
That's right. And when you talk about that, the sad thing, I think we are making progress. I don't want to be a pessimist.
Yes.
I think we are turning a corner here, but there are so many Americans out there, Ken, who don't understand the freedom and the liberty and the rights that they possess. And they have been told, whether it is by their mayor, whether it's by their city council, whether it's by their media, that not only do they not really have that right, but that there's something wrong with them for thinking that they do.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens is that we become addicted to the largesse of government. Mm-hmm. And we begin to think that the things that government provides us, those things are more important than understanding that we have become an exceptional nation, the most prosperous, because there has been an underlying appreciation for freedom. That we haven't become exceptional because we are hooked on big government's largesse. And so every now and then, we as a people get a wake-up call. And that's what this whole debt crisis is right now. So it's a wake-up call. But it's the perfect issue to bring together the three legs of the old Reagan conservative stool. There's a moral crisis because we're practicing intergenerational theft. Mm-hmm. There is an economic crisis because we're not producing the jobs and we're seeing the contraction of wealth of our people. And it's actually a national security crisis because of who holds our debt, China and others. And so, what we're seeing now, people are saying, hey, I get it. The alarm clock has gone off. And sometimes, when the alarm clock goes off and you're not ready to wake up, you sort of smack the alarm clock.
Right.
But there are other times when you have a vision and a hope for the day in front of you. When that alarm clock goes off, you're sort of thankful. And I think we have to be thankful as a people to our internal clock, our alarm clock that has gone off in the form of the Tea Party, in the form of those who love our Constitution and the brakes that it puts on the big and long reach of government.
Absolutely. Ken, I could talk to you for the rest of the program, sir, but I know you got places to go and people to see. I'm glad you could stop by today, and let's do this again very soon.
That's the deal.
I've got like 20 more questions for you that I can't get to, so will you come back at some point?
I will come back.
All
Thanks,
right,
Cam.
Ken, thank you,
right.
sir. Ken Blackwell, member of the NRA's Board of Directors, Senior Fellow at the Family Research Council. Again, the new book with Ken Kuklowski is going to be with us tomorrow, The Blueprint, Obama's Plan to Subvert the Constitution and Build an Imperial Presidency, which, by the way, the liberals were all for the imperial presidency when Kennedy and Johnson were in charge, and then, well, we shouldn't mention the Nixon years, I guess.